Jobless Reincarnation is just a generic isekai with nothing unique about it. Yet somehow, it's absolutely stunning. So let's take a look at 5 anime like Jobless Reincarnation. Number 1. Ascendance of a Bookworm. Our female protagonist has an almost obsessive liking for books, but just before she could achieve her dream of becoming a librarian, she wound up dying in an accident. Luckily, and/or unluckily, depending on how you want to look at it, she winds up being reincarnated as a 5-year-old girl named Mine, living in a medieval fantasy world. Mine still has memories from her previous life, and as such, she is completely driven by her love for reading. However, she has 2 major problems. First of which is that her new body is extremely frail and is essentially killing her. And secondly, since this is a medieval fantasy world, the printing press is yet to be invented, which means that books are extremely rare and extremely expensive. Now, Miss Protagonist is in a middle to low class family, so buying something as expensive as a book is completely out of the question. Mine must find a way to cure her illness and find a way to get her hands on a book, but hey, if she can't buy them, then maybe she just needs to make them herself. Ascendance of a Bookworm is like Jobless Reincarnation in many ways. To begin with, we have a grown adult who dies and reincarnates into a magical fantasy world as a child. Next, Mine and Rudy both take a liking to books. And lastly, both anime put a huge amount of time and detail into building the setting and world. This is by far my favorite anime of this list, and arguably the best. Just think of Ascendance of a Bookworm as a cross between Spice and Wolf and Dr. Stone. But isekai, of course. So, do you like mecha? Do you like isekai? Well, do I have an anime for you. Number 2. Knights in Magic. This anime begins with a modern-day Japanese software engineer slash mecha fanatic dying in a car accident. You never would have guessed it, but instead of passing on into the afterlife, he winds up being reincarnated into a magical fantasy world. This fantasy world is plagued by huge demonic beasts, and the humans of this world pilot giant mechs in order to combat the demons. Our protagonist is born as a noble's son named Ernesty, and he just so happens to be a magical prodigy. Then, as you can imagine, our child protagonist, who was a mecha fanatic in his previous life, really wants to pilot a silhouette knight. In order to achieve this goal, he attends Royal Lihala Academy, a school which is specifically meant to train pilots. Knights in Magic follows Ernesty as he learns to become a pilot and as he dreams of one day building his very own silhouette knight. Knights in Magic is similar to Jobless Reincarnation due to the setting and the protagonist. Both anime follow an adult Japanese man who dies and gets reincarnated as a child with OP magical abilities. Overall, Knights in Magic is a decent anime. It's nothing crazy, but it's entertaining enough to make it stand out from the sea of generic isekai. By the way, if you like isekai anime, then be sure to subscribe, because I'm currently working on a video that will literally dwarf every other isekai video on YouTube. Number 3. Wise Man's Grandchild. This story follows a normal Japanese businessman who accidentally plays chicken with a 2-ton vehicle. Yes, I did actually fact check that. Believe it or not, he actually lost the battle and ended up dying, but no need to cry, because he wound up being reincarnated into a fantasy world as a boy named Shin. If you're not sold yet, just wait until you hear that in this world, he gets adopted by the legendary hero of this world, Merlin. As you can imagine, Shin becomes extremely powerful due to his training with Merlin. But wait, there's more, because he uses the knowledge from his previous life on Earth to enhance his abilities even further. Now I know what you're thinking. Man, this guy has to have a weakness, right? You would be correct. His grand weakness and fatal flaw is that he's socially awkward. Just in case you haven't caught on yet, no, I don't like this anime. However, with that being said, it made the list because Wise Man's Grandchild is a lot like Jobless Reincarnation. Just like Jobless, we have the whole grown man meeting Truck-kun and being reincarnated into an overpowered child. Look, here's the takeaway. Wise Man's Grandchild is a generic trashy isekai anime. There's absolutely nothing wrong with enjoying this type of anime, it's just not for me. Number 4. Death March to the Parallel World Rhapsody. Wait a sec. All of these anime are the exact same. Oi, manager! I think there's a mistake. These are all basically the same show.
There's no mistake, Unseen. Stick to the script.
I was just thinking, wouldn't it be better if we...
No, they don't want you thinking. They want isekai. Stick to the script.
Are you a grown-ass adult who's tired of going to work every day? Ichiro Suzuki definitely was, and he was overworked to the point that sometimes he would just spend the night at the office. During one of these long days of programming, Ichiro decided to take a nap. But when he awoke, he found himself inside of a fantasy world that functions just like the video game he has been programming. Shortly after arriving in this world, Ichiro, who is now named Sato, finds himself being attacked by an army. Luckily though, he recently programmed in a consumable item to help new players get a footing in this world. And he uses said item to create a meteor shower which wipes out the entire army, nearly maxing out his level. Sato has no idea how to get home, so he just begins exploring the extent of this fantasy world. Along the way, he unlocks numerous skills, and of course he manages to surround himself with a harem of beautiful slave girls. What is the similarities, you ask? Well, this time our protagonist doesn't die, but he does find himself whisked away from his normal life and dropped into a fantasy world. Just like the previous entry, there's basically nothing unique or special about this anime. But it's not completely terrible, so you might enjoy it. Honestly, couldn't think of anything witty for this last one, so yeah. Number 5, The Eighth Son. Are you kidding me? This time, our story follows a 25-year-old Japanese businessman. Honestly, he's just trying to live his best life when all of a sudden, boom, he falls asleep. Though when he awakens, he finds himself in the body of a 5-year-old who is currently attending a wedding. It turns out, this is apparently his older brother's wedding, and since his brother is the firstborn, he is set to inherit the majority of the family's wealth. He wasn't too worried about this, that is until he realizes he's the 8th son born into this family, which basically guarantees that he will have to build his own fortune from scratch. Luckily enough, he randomly stumbles across an orb which begins to glow, indicating that he is able to use magic. Thus he begins training his magic under an undead wizard named Alfred. Our protagonist then sets out to become an adventurer with the hopes of building his own fame and fortune. The 8th son made this list for the same exact reasons as the other 4 anime I previously mentioned. You got a grown man who gets isekai'd into a child with OP magic. Personally, I only watched 1 episode and I have no intention of finishing this anime. From what I saw, it seems like your stereotypical cliché isekai, and I have to say, from what I read, the reviews agree with that assessment. If you're not too picky with your isekai anime, then I'm sure you will probably enjoy this one, so go ahead and give it a try. Shout out to my patron, and thanks for watching everyone. I hope to see you next time.